Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving straight in and peeling back the layers on a pretty massive misconception surrounding one of India's most fascinating academic institutions. If you've been looking into India's premier security university, you've probably heard some grand rumors about what exactly you can study there. Well, we're going to separate fact from fiction when it comes to the RRU University's Pasighat campus.
If you're a prospective student, maybe a parent, or honestly just someone deeply fascinated by national security, you might literally be typing this exact question into your search bar right now: can you major in border management at RRU Pasighat? Well, I'm here to give you the honest, definitive, and maybe slightly surprising answer: no. That specific degree, literally called Border Management Studies, just doesn't exist.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this is a genuinely important correction to make. If you go out hunting for a standalone Bachelor of Arts in Border Management, you're basically chasing a ghost. What actually exists at this campus is a much more nuanced, highly strategic academic track. Instead of a generic border degree, students enroll in rigorous security and police administration programs. These are then supplemented by the presence of specialized training right there on campus. It's really not about a flashy, fictional title. It's about a deeply practical security education that constantly bridges that gap between classroom theory and real-world ground realities.
So here is our roadmap for the explainer today. First, the border myth and geography. Second, real degrees and departments. Third, CBMIS training. And fourth, honest realities.
All right, kicking things off with Part 1, the border myth and geography. RRU's Pasighat campus in the East Siang district of Arunachal Pradesh was inaugurated back in May 2022. It was actually RRU University's very first regional campus. Think about that. They opened this before hubs in Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, Puducherry, Jammu and Kashmir, or Madhya Pradesh. Why? Well, because placing India's premier security studies university in the Northeast, a region completely defined by its complex and highly sensitive international boundaries, is definitely not an administrative accident. It is a highly deliberate geopolitical statement. It tells us exactly what their strategic priorities are right from the ground up.
Moving right along to Part 2, real degrees and departments.
So, what can you actually study? The full-time degree offerings live primarily within the Department of Police Administration. First up, you have the MAP-SM. I know, it's a mouthful, but that's the Master of Arts in Police Administration and Strategic Management, which focuses heavily on high-level security policy and institutional leadership. For the undergrads, there's the BSM, the Bachelor of Arts in Security Management, providing those foundational practical security skills. There's also a Diploma in Police Science, known as DIPS, and beyond that, the university offers highly specialized postgraduate diplomas. You've got one in Strength and Conditioning under Physical Education, and another in Cybersecurity and Digital Forensics under IT. So, the absolute key takeaway here is that you're getting a grounded, established degree in Security and Police Administration, firmly rooted in actual dedicated departments.
Which brings us to Part 3, CBIS, training the front line.
The real institutional home for border studies at Pasighat is CBMIS, the Center for Border Management and Intelligence Studies. It sits under the School of Internal Security and Police Administration, and this is incredibly important to grasp. CBMIS is a dedicated research and training center. Its direct mandate is to build knowledge and skills for India's massive land borders and coastline. But here's the major distinction we have to make. It runs programs aimed specifically at serving border guarding forces, coastal and marine police, academics, and serious career-oriented professionals. It's something entirely distinct from your standard, everyday undergraduate classroom.
Now here's a truly fascinating piece of institutional history. Get this, CBMIS was actually established in 2020. That means this specialized border center existed as an institutional initiative 2 full years before the physical Pasighat campus was even inaugurated in May 2022. Fast forward, and they are executing major, highly specific training events, like the Smart Border Management training scheduled for the SSB in February and March of 2026.
Let's just pause for a quick reality check here, especially if you're a prospective student using this explainer to plan out your future. I want to make this perfectly clear. CBMIS's most visible, currently active work is heavily oriented toward in-service training for serving border force officers. It is not primarily a conventional classroom pipeline for fresh high school leavers. If you're hoping to just sit in a lecture hall and automatically be handed a border management degree, that simply isn't what they do. What you do get as a student is an amazing security studies track, living alongside a specialized center whose daily output is actually upskilling the officers who are already deployed on the nation's borders.
To really understand what CBMIS does on the ground today, let's unpack this concrete example. In February and March 2026, RRU planned a 2-week training program on smart border management, specifically for officers of the Sashtra Seema Bal, or SSB. Now, this isn't theoretical textbook stuff. Inaugurated by RRU's Vice Chancellor with a retired BSF Additional Director General as the guest of honor, they actually tackle real-world challenges on the Indo-Nepal and Indo-Bhutan borders. They analyze strategic, legal, and technological issues. They even have dedicated sessions on the psychological resilience required for difficult operational postings and the incredibly practical value of local language skills during border operations. I mean, this is the immense caliber of training happening right there on campus. And finally, Part 4, Honest Realities and Careers. As of the university's most recent communications, this campus has only graduated 2 batches of master's students, 1 batch of bachelor students, and 4 batches of diploma or PG diploma students. The crucial point here is that this is a genuinely young, still establishing campus. We just have to be completely honest. Long-term alumni placement data simply doesn't exist yet, because the institution literally hasn't been around long enough to track decades of careers. Any claims you hear about guaranteed outcomes need to be viewed through the lens of how remarkably new this campus really is. Which brings us to shattering the final myth of our explainer. Please, do not fall for the idea of a fictional job title like Border Management Officer waiting for you alongside your graduation cap. The Indian government does not hire for a standardized, direct-entry border management officer straight out of a university degree. The realistic entry path for these graduates runs through the rigorous, established channels like the CAPF competitive examinations or the UPSC, just like any other aspirant. So where do graduates actually go? Well, the realistic career pipeline from Pasighat runs toward the state police services and the Central Armed Police Forces. So that's your BSF, ITBP, SSB, Assam Rifles, and CRPF. Graduates also go into correctional and prison administration, private security consulting, risk advisory, or, for those with a genuine academic bent, policy research. Look, an RRU degree won't let you bypass the competitive exams, but that deep subject matter grounding in intelligence, law, and administration, it gives candidates an immense competitive edge over someone coming in with a standard arts or science degree. And that brilliantly illustrates the core truth of our entire explainer. RRU Pasighat's border security specialism runs through a dedicated center training serving officers, not a standalone student degree. That is the actual value proposition. It is a strategic security studies campus located in a genuinely strategic geographical location with access to the cutting-edge, specialized environment of CBIMS. It's absolutely not a fictional degree mill. It is a serious ecosystem of real-world defense education.
Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought. As CBMIS continues to expand its in-service training for serving officers, how will this highly specialized hub in Arunachal Pradesh transform the future of India's frontline border defense? The foundations of tomorrow's security are being laid right now, not just in the undergraduate classrooms, but by the veteran officers training there today. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking questions, keep digging for that ground truth, and I will catch you next time.